My name is Alita, 32 years old, and I never thought my downtown Manhattan penthouse would become the center of family drama at my sister Hazel's wedding. I worked hard as a marketing executive to afford my dream home, but my parents always wanted more than I could give. When they cornered me at the reception demanding my keys in front of 50 guests, I refused. Mom slapped me so hard my diamond earring flew off. Before you continue reading, let me know where you are watching from, and hit subscribe for more real-life stories. College seems like a lifetime ago, but that NYU marketing degree with honors was my first step toward independence. Those early years weren't easy. I bounced between 3 small agencies in my first 2 years, working 60-hour weeks just to build my portfolio. The application process for Horizon Marketing Group was grueling. 3 interviews, a case presentation, and a personality assessment later, I finally landed an associate position. For 5 years straight, I practically lived at the office. While friends posted vacation photos, I was pitching campaigns to skeptical clients and mastering analytics software until midnight. My tiny studio apartment in Queens barely saw me, except to sleep. The promotion to senior marketing executive came with a substantial salary bump and the biggest bonus check I'd ever seen. That's when I started saving aggressively. Every month, 30% of my paycheck went straight into a separate account labeled Future Home. I cut luxuries, packed lunches, and took on freelance projects on weekends. No designer clothes, no exotic vacations, just pure determination. After 3 years of saving, I finally had enough for a down payment on a penthouse that took my breath away. The day I signed those mortgage papers at 30, I cried in the elevator going up to my new home. 2 bedrooms, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline, modern kitchen with marble countertops, and a private terrace where I could finally breathe. This was mine. No family loans, no partner to split costs, with just the result of my own hard work and sacrifices. My relationship with Hazel has always been complicated yet close. Being 2 years younger, she developed a different strategy for handling our parents. While I pushed back and fought for independence, Hazel became the perfect people-pleaser. In childhood, this created tension between us. I'd refuse to attend another unnecessary social function, while Hazel would dress up and charm every adult in the room. As adults, we found our way back to each other. When Hazel struggled to find her footing in the fashion industry, I connected her with clients from my network. When I went through a painful breakup 3 years ago, she stayed at my place for a week, cooking comfort food, and reminding me I deserved better. Our different approaches to life somehow balanced each other out. Hazel met Bradley at a charity fashion show benefiting children's art programs. She designed several pieces for the runway, and he was a major donor through his family's foundation. Their connection was immediate and genuine. For 18 whirlwind months, they dated long distance between New York and Boston, where his investment firm was headquartered. The proposal happened on a surprise weekend in Paris, complete with professional photographer capturing the moment. When they announced their engagement 6 months ago, I was genuinely thrilled for my sister. My parents, Karen and Thomas, have always maintained a carefully crafted image of upper-middle-class success. The country club memberships, European vacations, and my mother's designer wardrobe projected prosperity. But behind closed doors, financial stress was a constant companion in our household. My father launched 3 separate businesses during my childhood, each one starting with optimistic projections and ending in mounting debt. Their spending never adjusted to match reality. Mother's social climbing required maintaining appearances at any cost. The first time I discovered they had borrowed money from my grandparents without repaying was during my sophomore year of college. Grandma let it slip during a holiday dinner, asking if they had used the funds to fix the roof as promised. The uncomfortable silence told me everything. This pattern repeated with various relatives over the years. An emergency loan for medical bills that mysteriously coincided with a kitchen renovation. Temporary financial assistance that was never mentioned again. As my career advanced, their expectations shifted toward me. Small requests grew into larger ones, always wrapped in guilt about parental sacrifices. Last year, I accidentally saw a foreclosure notice while helping my father look for tax documents. When I asked about it, he brushed it off as a misunderstanding with the bank. I offered to help them create a budget, but they refused to discuss it further. In retrospect, I should have recognized this as the warning sign it was. The wedding planning process brought all these tensions to the surface. Despite Bradley's family offering to cover major expenses, my parents insisted on hosting an extravagant celebration beyond their means. Hazel called me in tears multiple times, caught between pleasing our parents and being practical about finances. I stepped in to pay for her dream wedding dress and hired an award-winning photographer as my gift to the couple. Rather than appreciation, these gestures seemed to fuel my parents' resentment. During a pre-wedding visit to my penthouse, my mother ran her fingers along my marble countertops and sighed dramatically about how some people live in luxury while others struggle. My father examined my spare bedroom with unusual interest, commenting that it was practically going to waste with just me living there. They began dropping hints about family sharing resources and how they might need to stay in the city more often. When they suggested leaving some clothes in my guest closet just in case alarm bells rang in my head. Despite my growing unease, I promised myself to keep the peace for Hazel's sake. This was her special day, and decades of family dynamics had taught me that confrontation would only create more drama. I never imagined how thoroughly that resolution would be tested at the reception. The morning of the wedding dawned bright and clear, a perfect October day with crisp air and golden sunlight. The bridal party gathered in a luxury suite at the plaza, where floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Central Park's autumn foliage. Hazel sat in front of an ornate mirror, her fingers nervously tapping on the vanity as the makeup artist applied her foundation. What if it rains during the photos? What if Bradley gets cold feet? What if the cake gets dropped? Her questions tumbled out in rapid succession, each one more unlikely than the last. I knelt beside her chair, taking her trembling hands in mine. Remember when we were kids, and you were afraid of performing in the school play? What did I tell you then? A small smile formed on her lips. That no matter what happened, the sun would still rise tomorrow, and I would still be me. Exactly. And no matter what happens today, tomorrow you'll still be married to the man you love. Bridesmaid Sophia, my college roommate turned friend, expertly applied Hazel's eye makeup while Tiffany, Bradley's sister, steamed last-minute wrinkles from the veil. The room buzzed with productive energy until my mother swept in her expression, pinched with disapproval. This room is entirely too small for a proper bridal preparation. I specifically requested the corner suite with additional square footage. She dropped her designer handbag on the bed with a sigh. I suppose we'll have to make do as usual. I caught Hazel's eye in the mirror and gave her a reassuring wink. We had years of experience translating our mother's complaints. The hotel had likely upgraded us for free, but it wasn't quite prestigious enough to brag about to her friends. My father appeared shortly after, phone pressed to his ear as he nodded at us in greeting. Yes, understand completely. We'll discuss after the weekend. Absolutely. He ended the call with a forced smile that didn't reach his eyes. Beautiful day for a wedding. Photographer getting good shots. The photographer captured what appeared to be touching family moments. Mother adjusting Hazel's veil. Father giving a tearful thumbs up. Me fastening the something borrowed pearl bracelet around my sister's wrist. Anyone looking at these photos later would see a picture-perfect family sharing a joyous occasion. The tension beneath the surface remained invisible to the camera lens. Helping Hazel into her wedding dress became an emotional moment for all of us. The ivory silk creation with delicate lace overlay transformed my little sister into a breathtaking bride. Tears sprang to my eyes as she twirled slowly, the dress catching light from every angle. "You look absolutely perfect," I whispered, careful not to smudge my makeup. Mother circled Hazel like a fashion critic, tugging at invisible imperfections. The seamstress should have taken in the waist another quarter inch. And these buttons are spaced oddly. For what we paid, I expected perfection. Hazel's smile dimmed slightly and I quickly jumped in. The dress is stunning and so are you. Bradley is going to be speechless. While the bridesmaids helped attach Hazel's cathedral-length veil, my father pulled me aside near the window. "Alita, I need to discuss a business opportunity with you, something with significant potential returns. My stomach tightened instinctively. Today is about Hazel. Let's focus on that, shall we? We can talk business another time. His expression darkened momentarily before smoothing into a genial smile. Of course, of course. Just thinking about the future. When we had a brief moment alone, Hazel squeezed my hand tightly. Thank you for the dress and photographer. I know those weren't cheap, and it means everything to have your support. You deserve the perfect day. I'm so happy for you. The bridesmaids exchanged glances, clearly sensing the undercurrent of tension between me and our parents. Sophia raised an eyebrow questioningly, but I shook my head slightly. Today wasn't the day for explanations or drama. During the limo ride to St. Patrick's Cathedral, I sat sandwiched between my mother and Tiffany, maintaining a pleasant expression, as Mom critiqued everything from the floral arrangements to the guest list. I still don't understand why Bradley's second cousins needed invitations when we had to cut my bridge club friends. The magnificent cathedral stood ready to welcome 300 guests, its Gothic architecture providing a dramatic backdrop for the ceremony. White roses and trailing greenery adorned each pew end, creating an elegant path to the altar, where Bradley waited visibly emotional as the string quartet began the processional music. The moment Hazel appeared at the entrance on our father's arm, Bradley's composure broke. Tears streamed down his face as he watched his bride approach. This genuine display of love momentarily united everyone in the cathedral, including our parents who beamed proudly as they processed down the aisle. From my position at the altar as maid of honor, I noticed my parents networking during quiet moments in the ceremony, mother whispering to the wife of a prominent surgeon, father exchanging business cards with Bradley's uncle, a venture capitalist. Even here in this sacred space, their focus remained on connections and opportunities. Despite my nervousness, I delivered my reading clearly, meeting Hazel's grateful eyes as I spoke about love and commitment. For a fleeting moment, I dared to hope the day might continue without incident, that my parents might set aside their agenda long enough to celebrate their daughter's happiness. The cocktail hour at the plaza's ballroom began smoothly enough. Champagne flowed freely as waitstaff circulated with trays of elegant hors d'oeuvre. I found myself surrounded by extended family members I hadn't seen in years, all eager to catch up on my life. Your mother mentioned you're doing well in marketing, Aunt Margaret said, sipping her champagne. Executive position, isn't it? Always knew you had a good head for business. Senior marketing executive at Horizon. It's challenging work, but I love it. Uncle Robert joined us, patting my shoulder affectionately. That penthouse of yours is something else. Those views of the park are worth every penny, I'd say. Smart investment. Thank you. It took years of saving, but it finally feels like home. My cousin Jennifer, fresh out of college, pulled me aside for career advice. I'm considering marketing too. Any tips for breaking in? Your career path has been amazing to watch. From across the room, I caught my mother watching these interactions, her smile tightening as she overheard the praise directed my way. Father stood nearby at the open bar, already on his second scotch, his eyes tracking the wealthier guests in the room. When compliments about my career success continued, Mother smoothly inserted herself into conversations, redirecting topics back to Hazel's special day and the beautiful ceremony. The subtle competition for attention that had characterized my childhood continued in these adult interactions. The lavish dinner service began promptly at 7, with guests finding their assigned tables, adorned with towering floral arrangements and hand-calligraphed place cards. My maid of honor speech was scheduled immediately following the main course. Standing at the microphone, glass of champagne in hand, I focused solely on Hazel and Bradley. Some of you know that my sister and I approach life differently. She leads with her heart while I tend to analyze everything. But watching her relationship with Bradley has taught me something important about love. Sometimes the heart gets it right immediately, while the head takes longer to catch up. Genuine laughter rippled through the ballroom as I shared anecdotes from our childhood and celebrated the couple's journey. As applause filled the room, I caught my parents' tight smiles from the head table. Their eyes reflected, not pride, but something closer to envy. After my speech, I joined my college friends at table 14, gratefully accepting their compliments on my delivery. Tracy, who worked in publishing, was describing her latest project when I noticed my parents approaching with deceptively casual expressions. "We'll catch up later," Diana murmured, recognizing the family dynamics at play. She and Tracy discreetly moved toward the dance floor, leaving me alone as my parents took their vacated seats. "Lovely speech," Alita mother said, smoothing her silk dress as she sat down. "Very eloquent. You always did have a way with words." Father nodded in agreement. "I saw your building featured in Architectural Digest last month. The penthouse level looked particularly impressive. Property values in that area continue to climb, don't they?" "The market's been strong, yes." I kept my tone neutral, though my guard immediately went up at the mention of my home. "Such a prime location," Mother commented, glancing around to ensure nearby guests could hear. "All that space for just one person seems excessive, doesn't it? So many rooms going unused." I sipped my water, acutely aware of at least 50 wedding guests within earshot at surrounding tables. "I use every inch of my home, actually. The second bedroom doubles as my home office." Father leaned forward, lowering his voice slightly. "Speaking of homes, we've had a small misunderstanding with our bank. Nothing serious, just paperwork confusion about the mortgage." The conversation's uncomfortable direction became increasingly clear. Mother's eyes darted around the reception before landing back on me. "That spare bedroom in your penthouse, the one with the private bathroom. How often do you actually use it?" "It's my office, as I mentioned. I work from home frequently." My stomach knotted as I recognized the familiar pattern beginning to unfold. Father cleared his throat, his voice dropping further. "The thing is, we may need a place to stay temporarily. The house situation is a bit complicated. Foreclosure proceedings and all that. Bureaucratic nonsense." Foreclosure, I kept my voice steady despite my shock. I thought that notice was a mistake. "Well, it's progressed a bit since then," he admitted, avoiding my eyes. "But we've been thinking. That spare room of yours would be perfect for us. We could move in next week, get settled before the holidays." The directness of the request stunned me momentarily. I gathered my thoughts, aware of curious glances from nearby tables where conversations had quieted. "I can help you find an apartment that fits your budget. There are some nice options in Queens or Brooklyn." Mother's face contorted with disgust. "Queens, Brooklyn. Those areas are completely unsuitable. We have standards, Alita." Besides, Father added, "Why waste money on rent when you have all that extra space? It makes financial sense for family to share resources." "My penthouse isn't an option," I stated firmly. "It's my private home, not a family timeshare." Father's expression hardened. "We need to see the place tonight. Give us your keys so we can check it out after the reception." I stood, intending to end the conversation before it escalated further. "No, that's not happening. We can discuss housing options for you tomorrow, but my home is not available." Nearby conversations stopped entirely as people noticed the tension. The wedding planner glanced our way from across the room, clearly concerned about the developing situation. On the dance floor, Hazel and Bradley swayed, blissfully unaware of the confrontation brewing at table 14. Mother grabbed my wrist as I attempted to walk away, her French manicured nails digging into my skin. "You sit back down right now. We're not finished." "After everything we sacrificed for you, Father," hissed, his face flushing with anger, "this is how you repay us. With selfishness, we gave up everything for your education, your career." The unfairness of this accusation stung sharply. "You didn't support my education. I worked through college and paid off my loans myself. You've never contributed to my career." Mother's face transformed with a rage I'd seen directed at others, but never at me. Her hand moved with shocking speed, connecting with my left cheek with enough force to snap my head sideways. The sound of the slap seemed to echo through the suddenly silent reception area. I felt my diamond earring a graduation gift to myself, tear free from my earlobe and fly across the polished marble floor. A burning sensation spread across my cheek as complete silence fell over the nearby tables. The taste of blood filled my mouth where I'd accidentally bitten the inside of my cheek from the impact. 50 pairs of eyes stared in stunned disbelief. Someone gasped audibly. A waiter froze mid-step, champagne flutes balanced precariously on his tray. "What is going on?" Hazel's panicked voice broke the silence as she rushed toward our table, wedding gown billowing behind her. Bradley followed closely, his expression concerned and confused. "Your sister has disrespected this family for the last time," Mother declared loudly. "After everything we've done for her, she refuses to help her own parents in their time of need." Father stood pointing accusingly. "Alita needs to apologize to your mother immediately." The wedding guests at nearby tables pretended to resume their conversations, while obviously listening to every word. My cousin Jennifer knelt to retrieve my fallen earring from where it had skidded under a nearby chair. The wedding planner appeared beside Hazel, speaking in hushed, urgent tones about redirecting the evening's flow and maintaining the celebration atmosphere. But the damage was already done. "Please," Hazel begged, tears threatening to ruin her perfect makeup. "Everyone just calm down. We can talk about this tomorrow." Bradley placed a protective arm around his new wife while attempting to mediate. "Let's all take a breath. This is a day for celebration, not family disputes." The humiliation of the public spectacle combined with the physical sting of the slap made it impossible for me to remain. I couldn't cause a bigger scene by responding as my emotions demanded. Looking at Hazel's distressed face, I made my decision. "I need some air," I said, quietly meeting my sister's eyes. "I'm sorry this happened now. We'll talk later." With as much dignity as I could muster, I walked steadily toward the exit, feeling the weight of dozens of stares on my back. Whispers followed in my wake, the wedding guests already constructing their own versions of the family drama they had witnessed. The parking garage beneath the plaza offered blessed solitude. I sat in my car, hands gripping the steering wheel before the tears finally came. For several minutes, I allowed myself to feel the full weight of what had just happened. The public humiliation, the physical assault, the audacity of their demands. In the rearview mirror, I examined the red mark blooming across my left cheek. The physical pain was minimal compared to the emotional wound inflicted by my own mother's hand. My fingers automatically reached for my missing earring, the empty earlobe, a small but additional loss. My phone buzzed with a text from Sophia. "Are you okay? That was awful. Do you need me to come find you?" I stared at the message, without responding, torn between driving home to end this horrible day and feeling guilty about abandoning Hazel at her wedding. Despite everything, I didn't want to be another source of distress for my sister on what should be the happiest day of her life. As my breathing steadied, anger began replacing shock. This incident hadn't occurred in isolation. It was the culmination of a lifetime of similar situations, each one building toward this breaking point. My mind flashed back to my college graduation. While other parents presented gifts and celebrated achievements, mine had taken me to dinner with a carefully prepared speech about family obligations. They expected half my entry-level salary to help with temporary financial difficulties. When I refused, the silent treatment lasted 3 months. When I signed the lease on my first tiny apartment, they arrived unannounced with suitcases, explaining that their house needed unexpected repairs, and they would be staying just until things were settled. That 3-week visit stretched into 2 months of boundary violations and criticism of my independent life. 5 years ago, I loaned them $15,000 for supposed medical expenses, after my father complained of chest pains. Later, I discovered through an accidental social media post that they had used the money for a Mediterranean cruise. When confronted, they insisted the vacation was medically necessary for stress relief. Each time, I eventually gave in to keep peace in the family. Each time, I worried about how their behavior affected Hazel, who still lived in our hometown and dealt with them daily. Each time, I told myself that maintaining family harmony was worth the personal cost. As my career advanced and my financial situation improved, their entitlement grew proportionately. Each promotion became an opportunity for new requests. Each achievement became evidence that I could afford to solve their self-created problems. They weaponized my relationship with Hazel, suggesting that refusing their demands meant I didn't care about family stress that fell on her shoulders. Sitting in the garage, I experienced a moment of startling clarity. This pattern would never end unless I ended it. By enabling their behavior for years, I had actually harmed everyone involved, including my parents themselves. They had never developed financial responsibility because there were always bailouts available. I had sacrificed my boundaries in the name of peace that never truly arrived. The slap had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. The public nature of their confrontation wasn't accidental. They had calculated that social pressure would force my compliance. They counted on me leaving the reception in embarrassment, making me appear the villain who abandoned her sister's wedding after a family disagreement. For the first time, I saw their manipulation with perfect clarity. And with that clarity came determination. I would return to the reception, but not alone, and not unprepared. I scrolled through my phone contacts, considering my options carefully. My finger paused over a name: Vincent Lawrence, family attorney. Vincent had handled the legal aspects of my penthouse purchase. More importantly, he knew my family history, having documented previous financial entanglements when I finally extricated myself from joint accounts and responsibilities. Vincent had also represented Hazel and Bradley for their prenuptial agreement, giving him insight into multiple dimensions of our family dynamics. If anyone understood the full picture and had documentation to support it, it was him. The call connected on the second ring. Vincent Lawrence speaking. Vincent, it's Alita Jensen. I apologize for calling during weekend hours, but I'm dealing with an urgent situation at my sister's wedding reception. I explained the confrontation, the demand for my home, and the physical assault, speaking rapidly but clearly. This has crossed from financial manipulation into something more serious. Vincent responded, his tone professional but concerned. I can be at the plaza within the hour with the relevant documentation from our previous discussions. Would that be helpful? Relief washed over me. Extremely helpful, yes. Thank you. I'll bring the financial records and previous agreements. Wait for me in the lobby, and we'll proceed from there. While waiting for Vincent's arrival, I used the car's mirror to repair my makeup, covering the mark on my cheek as best I could. The physical evidence of the slap might fade, but something fundamental had shifted in my understanding of my family relationships. A text from Hazel lit up my phone. Please come back. Mom and Dad are telling everyone you had a meltdown about being single. I need you here. The manipulation continued even in my absence. I responded with simple honesty. I'll be back soon. We need to talk about Mom and Dad's financial situation and behavior. It's worse than you know. Bradley sent a separate message moments later. Take your time. I've suspected issues with your parents since they tried to change wedding vendors without telling us. They don't know I know about the bounced checks. We support you. His message confirmed my suspicions. My parents' financial deception extended beyond what even I had uncovered. I waited in the ornate lobby, mentally rehearsing a calm, professional approach to the situation. When Vincent arrived precisely 50 minutes after our call, his familiar presence brought immediate reassurance. In his tailored suit with leather portfolio under his arm, he projected exactly the confident authority the situation required. I brought everything he said briefly, showing me a folder containing financial records and legal documents. How would you like to proceed? Directly and calmly, I replied. Let's rejoin the reception. Together, we walked toward the ballroom, my steps steadier with each moment. For the first time in dealing with my parents, I felt genuinely empowered rather than defensive. We re-entered the reception as the dinner service concluded, and dancing was in full swing. Heads turned immediately as guests noticed my return with an unknown man in a business suit. The whispers started instantly following our path as we walked confidently through the tables toward the family seating area. My parents sat with Hazel and Bradley, engaged in what appeared to be intense conversation. Mother noticed me first, her eyes widening with confusion at my composed return with company. Father followed her gaze, his expression changing from dismissive to alarmed as recognition dawned on his face. Vincent Lawrence had represented me in 3 separate financial matters involving my parents. They knew exactly who he was and what his presence signified. Mother's face drained of color so rapidly I momentarily worried she might faint. Then came the reaction that would be discussed by wedding guests for years afterward. She screamed. Not a small exclamation of surprise, but a full-throated shriek that momentarily stopped the music and froze dancers mid-step. "What is he doing here?" she demanded, pointing at Vincent with a shaking finger. The wedding planner rushed over professional smile strained as she assessed this new development. "Is everything all right? Should we continue with the cake cutting as scheduled?" "What's happening?" Hazel asked, her voice trembling with tension and exhaustion. The joyful bride from the ceremony now looked worn and distressed. "I believe we should discuss certain matters privately," Vincent suggested, his tone reasonable and calm. "We have nothing to discuss," Father declared loudly. "This is our daughter's wedding, not a business meeting." Bradley stood his new husband's status, giving him authority in the situation. "I think a private conversation would be best for everyone. There's a small room adjacent to the main ballroom we can use." "This is ridiculous," Mother protested. "We're not leaving the reception." Mom Hazel said firmly, surprising everyone with her tone. "Either we move this discussion somewhere private, or I will personally announce to every guest why there was screaming at my wedding reception." This unexpected backbone from my usually accommodating sister changed the dynamic instantly. With visible reluctance, our parents allowed themselves to be guided toward the antechamber Bradley had mentioned. The wedding planner discreetly instructed the DJ to resume the music, drawing attention away from our departure. As the door closed behind the 6 of us, the sudden quiet felt almost disorienting after the reception's constant background noise. "Why have you brought a lawyer to your sister's wedding?" Mother demanded immediately, her voice shrill with defensive anger. "Vincent is here at my request, following your physical assault and demands regarding my property," I responded calmly. "Physical assault? That's absurd," Father scoffed. "A mother disciplining an ungrateful daughter is hardly assault." Vincent placed his portfolio on the small conference table. "Actually, Mr. Jensen striking another adult is legally classified as assault regardless of family relationship. But that's not the primary reason for my presence today." "Then why are you here?" Mother snapped. "I'm here because there are several financial and legal matters that need immediate attention." Vincent opened his portfolio with practiced efficiency. "I've been documenting a pattern of concerning financial behavior that has now escalated to attempted property acquisition through coercion." Mother gasped dramatically. "How dare you? We simply asked our daughter for help during a difficult time." "Let's be specific about that difficult time," Vincent continued unperturbed. He removed several documents from his folder. "I have here records of unpaid family loans totaling $175,000 across 7 different relatives. These loans were represented as medical emergencies, house repairs, and business investments, none of which appear to have been legitimate." Hazel's eyes widened. "What loans from which relatives?" "Aunt Patricia, Uncle Robert, your grandparents' cousin Michael, and 3 others," Vincent replied, sliding a document toward Hazel and Bradley. "All documented with dates, amounts, and stated purposes." "This is private family business," Father interrupted, attempting to grab the paper. Bradley smoothly intercepted, scanning the document with growing concern. "These documents also indicate," Vincent continued, "that your parents have been living significantly beyond their means for approximately 15 years, using a combination of home equity lines, personal loans, and credit card debt to maintain their lifestyle." He produced another set of papers. "The family home has been remortgaged 3 times, most recently last year, at an interest rate, suggesting severely compromised credit." Hazel looked increasingly distressed. "Is this why you were so insistent on the expensive wedding venue? When Bradley's parents offered to pay for the plaza, you refused." but then couldn't cover the deposits. Mother avoided her gaze, adjusting her jewelry nervously. Most concerning Vincent, said extracting another document is this bankruptcy filing from 4 weeks ago, which was deliberately concealed from both daughters. Bankruptcy. I echoed, genuinely shocked, despite everything. You filed for bankruptcy right before Hazel's wedding. We were going to tell you, after the honeymoon. Father muttered, no longer maintaining eye contact. Vincent nodded grimly. The timing suggests a deliberate plan to move into Miss Jensen's penthouse established residency and potentially claim partial ownership through family contribution arguments. That's preposterous, Mother exclaimed, though her flushed face suggested otherwise. Is it because we have evidence of a similar attempt with your brother-in-law's vacation property in Florida 3 years ago, which resulted in threatened legal action from his attorney? Bradley leaned forward, expression serious. Did you take out loans in Hazel's name as well? Because our financial advisor found some concerning credit inquiries during our mortgage application process. The momentary panic that flashed across my father's face answered before his words could deny it. Hazel covered her mouth, tears welling in her eyes. Just a small student loan refinancing, he admitted. We were going to pay it off before you ever knew about it. 7 credit accounts, Bradley corrected, totaling over $40,000. We've been quietly making payments to protect Hazel's credit score. My sister's shock transformed into something harder as she processed this revelation. Years of manipulation and deception were unraveling before her eyes. I can't believe this, she whispered. All those childhood emergencies when we couldn't go on school trips because there was no money. All those times you made Alita feel guilty for not helping enough. It was all just mismanagement. Lies. My parents attempted various defenses, each one weaker than the last. Mother tried redirecting blame toward me for flaunting my success. Father threatened legal action against Vincent for defamation, but the documented evidence proved irrefutable. Throughout the increasingly emotional exchange, I maintained a composed exterior despite the turmoil inside. This wasn't how I wanted Hazel to learn these difficult truths, especially not on her wedding day. Yet, a lifetime of deception had made this moment inevitable. Bradley supported both of us with quiet strength, his arm around Hazel's shoulders, as she processed decades of family mythology crumbling under the weight of documented facts. When the initial shock subsided, Vincent presented 3 clear options to my parents. First option: we can address these issues publicly with formal legal proceedings regarding the assault, financial fraud, and identity theft. This would involve police reports and court appearances. Mother paled visibly at this suggestion. Second option: we resolve this privately, with binding agreements regarding future contact, financial boundaries, and appropriate behavior. Miss Jensen's property remains solely hers, with no claims possible from family members. Father shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Third option: Miss Jensen pursues only the most serious legal claims regarding fraudulent behavior, particularly any involving her sister's identity. Vincent looked directly at my parents. Additionally, a formal written apology for the physical assault is required, regardless of which option you choose, along with agreement to limited contact moving forward. The realization of their powerless position settled over my parents gradually. Mother attempted a tearful apology that included phrases like, "If you felt hurt and never meant to cause problems." Father accepted the terms with angry resignation, recognizing the overwhelming evidence against them. "We'll need to discuss specifics after the wedding weekend," Vincent concluded. "For now, I suggest everyone return to the reception with appropriate composure for the remaining guests." As Vincent gathered his documents, the magnitude of what had just occurred hung heavily in the room. Decades of family dynamics had been irrevocably altered in a single hour. After the intense confrontation in the antechamber, we agreed to return to the reception with composed demeanors. For Hazel's sake, we would maintain the appearance of a united family for the remainder of the evening. My parents excused themselves to their hotel room to freshen up, leaving me alone with my sister and her new husband. The moment the door closed behind them, Hazel collapsed into a chair, her wedding gown billowing around her. I can't believe I never saw it clearly. All these years I thought you were just being difficult when you refused their requests. I actually defended them to Bradley. You couldn't have known, I assured her, taking her hand. They were careful to show different sides to each of us. With me, they were demanding because they knew I had boundaries. With you, they were manipulative because they knew you wanted to please them. I feel like such a fool. A tear slipped down her cheek. Hey. I knelt beside her chair, careful of her dress. You are not a fool. You're kind and loving, and they took advantage of that. None of this is your fault. Bradley nodded in agreement. I've suspected financial issues since they tried renegotiating vendor contracts without telling us, but I never imagined the extent of it. Alita. Hazel gripped my hands tightly. I want you to stay for the rest of the reception. Please don't let them ruin this completely. I wouldn't dream of leaving now, I promised. This is still your wedding day, and we're going to salvage every bit of joy we can from it. Vincent discreetly exited with plans to follow up after the weekend, leaving the three of us a moment to process what had happened before rejoining the celebration. I took a deep breath, mentally preparing myself for the curious glances and whispered speculations that would inevitably accompany my return, ready to face the music. Hazel squared her shoulders with new determination, more than ready. But first, she hugged me tightly. Thank you for finally standing up to them. I think I needed to see that. The reception was in full swing when we returned, with guests dancing enthusiastically to the band's cover of a popular song. Curious glances followed our re-entry, but most people politely averted their eyes. The wedding planner had clearly done an excellent job of redirecting attention back to the celebration. Aunt Margaret approached me immediately, her concern evident. Are you all right, dear? That was quite a scene earlier. I'm fine, thank you. Just a family misunderstanding. She patted my hand knowingly. Your mother has always had a flair for drama. When we were girls, she once threw a complete tantrum at my sweet 16 because our parents gave me the pearl necklace she wanted. This glimpse into my mother's childhood behavior patterns felt oddly validating. I never knew that. There's a lot you girls haven't been told about your parents' history, she replied cryptically. Uncle Robert approached with a glass of water. Thought you might need this. And your cousin found something that belongs to you. He opened his palm to reveal my diamond earring recovered from under the table. Thank you, I said gratefully, accepting both the water and the jewelry. Family's complicated, he offered simply. But not all of us approve of what happened tonight. Several guests inquired about the earlier commotion. I provided a brief, vague explanation about a family discussion that got heated, gently steering conversations back to celebrating Hazel and Bradley. As the focus shifted back to the newlyweds where it belonged, I found myself accepting an invitation to dance from Bradley's brother, Nathan. For the first time that evening, I felt a surprising lightness. The weight of maintaining family secrets and enabling destructive patterns had lifted from my shoulders. My parents eventually returned to the reception, their demeanor notably subdued. They maintained a polite distance from me for the remainder of the evening, focusing their attention on conversations with Bradley's extended family. Occasionally, I caught my mother watching me with an unreadable expression, somewhere between resentment and uncertainty. During a quiet moment by the dessert table, Aunt Margaret pulled me aside for a more private conversation. I've wanted to talk to you girls for years about your parents, but it never seemed like my place. What do you mean? I asked, curious about this new perspective. Karen and Thomas have always lived beyond their means. It started before you were born with their wedding that nearly bankrupted my parents. They insisted on a country club reception when a backyard gathering would have been perfectly lovely. She continued explaining patterns I'd observed, but never fully understood. They did the same thing to my brother Michael years ago that they tried with you tonight. Showed up at his lake house for a weekend visit, then announced they were staying indefinitely because of renovation issues at home. He finally had to change the locks after 3 months. These revelations helped me understand that the family dynamics extended far beyond my immediate experience. There was a generational pattern that had affected many relatives, not just Hazel and me. I should have spoken up sooner, Aunt Margaret admitted. Maybe it would have saved you girls some pain. We all do what we think is right at the time, I assured her. I'm just grateful to know we have family support beyond our parents. Bradley's parents approached me later, offering unexpected friendship. We've only known your parents for 18 months, Mrs. Calloway said gently, but we recognize certain behaviors immediately. Our own relatives have similar tendencies. Please know you're always welcome in our home. These connections with extended family felt like discovering foundation blocks I never knew existed. For years, my parents had controlled the narrative about our family relationships, limiting our contact with relatives who might have offered different perspectives. Before my parents made their surprisingly early departure, I had a brief controlled conversation with them near the coat check. We'll need to have a real discussion after the wedding weekend, I stated calmly. This humiliation was completely unnecessary, Mother whispered furiously. Bringing a lawyer to your sister's wedding. Slapping your daughter in front of 50 guests was unnecessary, I countered evenly. Vincent is merely the consequence of that choice. Father adjusted his tie uncomfortably. We'll discuss terms next week, but don't think this changes anything fundamental. It changes everything, I replied. I expect complete respect for my boundaries moving forward. That's non-negotiable. Their reluctant nods were far from enthusiastic agreement, but it was a starting point. As they left, I felt no sadness at their departure, only relief that the evening could continue without further drama. The traditional bouquet toss and garter ceremonies brought welcome lightheartedness back to the reception. I helped Hazel change into her going-away outfit in the bridal suite, both of us quieter than we might have been under different circumstances. We need to talk properly after the honeymoon, she said, adjusting her cream-colored traveling suit. About everything. We will, I promised. But right now focus on enjoying every minute with Bradley. You deserve this happiness. I love you, she whispered, hugging me tightly. I'm sorry I didn't see things clearly sooner. I love you too. Now go start your honeymoon adventure. We joined the crowd of well-wishers in the hotel lobby, where guests had gathered with tiny bags of confetti. As Hazel and Bradley ran through the shower of colorful paper toward their waiting car, I felt genuine happiness for my sister, despite the family upheaval. The drive back to my penthouse was quiet, filled with conflicting emotions. Sadness for the family relationships that might never be the same. Relief at finally establishing clear boundaries. Resolution to protect what mattered, while maintaining my dignity. As I unlocked my front door and stepped inside, I looked at my home with new appreciation. Every corner represented hard work, careful planning, and personal sacrifice. This space was mine, earned through my own efforts, and I had every right to protect it. 2 weeks after the wedding, Hazel returned from her Caribbean honeymoon with a golden tan and clearer perspective. We met at a neutral coffee shop midway between our homes, both of us arriving early out of habit. You look relaxed, I observed as she slid into the booth opposite me. The newlywed glow suited her. The beach was exactly what we needed after everything, she admitted, stirring her latte absently. Bradley and I had a lot of time to process what happened. I'm sorry it overshadowed your wedding day. That was never my intention. She shook her head firmly. Don't apologize. If anything, I should apologize to you for years of not seeing what was happening. Bradley helped me understand how our parents played us against each other. Over the next hour, Hazel shared additional revelations that had emerged after the wedding. Various guests had approached her with stories about our parents' financial manipulations over the years. Most shockingly, she discovered they had attempted to borrow money from Bradley's family just before the wedding. His parents were too polite to mention it, she explained, embarrassment coloring her cheeks. They thought we knew. Apparently, Dad approached Bradley's father about a short-term business loan of $30,000 to be paid back right after the honeymoon. They never stop, I murmured, unsurprised but disappointed nonetheless. I've been thinking about all those childhood emergencies, Hazel continued. Remember when I needed braces? And suddenly we couldn't afford it because the car needed urgent repairs, or when your school trip to Washington was canceled because the roof was supposedly leaking. I nodded slowly. I found receipts years later for Mom's spa weekend that coincided exactly with that roof repair. All those years I thought we were genuinely struggling financially. I felt guilty asking for anything. Meanwhile, they were taking luxury vacations and buying designer clothes. Her voice cracked slightly. I defended them to you so many times. We were both manipulated in different ways, I reassured her. You have nothing to apologize for. But I do, she insisted. I should have supported your boundaries instead of begging you to keep the peace every time they demanded something unreasonable. We spent hours reconnecting, planning a relationship independent from our parents' influence. For the first time, we could be sisters without the complicated family dynamic distorting our interactions. In the weeks that followed, my parents' behavior evolved through predictable stages. Initially, angry emails and voicemails demanded explanations for my betrayal. These gradually shifted to guilt-inducing messages about health concerns and financial desperation. Eventually, they attempted manipulation through extended family members, asking various relatives to talk sense into Alita about family obligations. Vincent handled all financial arrangements, professionally establishing clear documentation of resolved debts and future expectations. My parents moved into a small apartment in a different neighborhood, far below the standards they had maintained through years of unsustainable spending. When Hazel and I declined their invitation for family therapy sessions, they expressed shock and betrayal. After everything we've done for you girls, this is how you repay us. The familiar refrain had lost its power to induce guilt. Throughout this challenging transition, I discovered unexpected sources of support. My friends Diana and Tracy created regular dinner gatherings where I could process complicated emotions in a safe environment. My work colleague Madison shared her own experience, establishing boundaries with manipulative parents, offering valuable perspective from someone further along the healing journey. Individual therapy sessions helped me understand the complex guilt that still occasionally surfaced. You're unwinding decades of conditioned responses, my therapist explained. Be patient with yourself through this process. Connections with Bradley's family flourished without my parents' interference. His mother taught me to make her famous apple pie during a weekend visit, something my own mother had never had patience for. His father recommended investment strategies that helped me better manage my growing savings. Extended family relationships blossomed with new authenticity. Cousins I'd barely known growing up became regular brunch companions. Uncle Robert invited me to his 70th birthday celebration, an event my parents had always insisted was too far to travel. My home transformed alongside my emotional landscape. The guest bedroom that had been preserved for my parents' increasingly frequent visits became a bright, inspiring home office, representing my professional achievements. I redecorated with artwork that spoke to my personal taste rather than seeking my mother's approval. Professional success followed this personal liberation. Without the constant drain of family drama consuming my emotional energy, I found greater focus and creativity in my work. A promotion to marketing director came 6 months after the wedding recognition of campaigns that had significantly expanded our client base. For the first time, I planned an international vacation solely for personal enjoyment. 2 weeks in Japan exploring temples and modern cities alike, without a single moment of guilt about spending money on myself, instead of solving family emergencies. My journal entries tracked subtle but significant changes in my emotional responses. The anxiety that once accompanied my parents' names on caller ID gradually diminished. The reflexive guilt, when setting boundaries, slowly transformed into appropriate self-advocacy. Perhaps, most importantly, I learned to take pride in my accomplishments without minimizing them to avoid parental jealousy. My penthouse wasn't just a home. It was tangible evidence of my hard work, smart choices, and personal vision. Defending it had become a symbolic act of self-respect. That Thanksgiving, I hosted dinner for Hazel Bradley, and several friends who had no local family. The meal featured dishes representing our various backgrounds and preferences, creating new traditions based on mutual respect rather than obligation. A letter arrived from Aunt Margaret that month containing family photos I'd never seen and stories my parents had never shared. "Your grandmother would be so proud of the strong, independent women her granddaughters have become," she wrote. "She faced similar challenges with your grandfather's family and always advised us to build your own foundation, not someone else's facade." As winter settled over the city, I found myself increasingly at peace with the understanding that my parents might never truly change. Their occasional attempts at contact still followed predictable patterns of manipulation. But accepting this reality without surrendering my boundaries became possible with practice. One evening, standing on my terrace watching snowflakes dance against the city lights, I realized how completely my perspective had shifted. The penthouse that had become the focal point of family drama now represented something entirely different, not just financial success, but emotional freedom. The journey from people-pleasing daughter to self-respecting adult had been painful but necessary. Every difficult conversation, every enforced boundary, every moment of standing firm, despite guilt trips, had built a foundation for healthier relationships moving forward. Home was no longer defined by family approval or childhood patterns. It was a space I had created through my own efforts, protected with newly discovered strength and filled with relationships based on mutual respect, rather than obligation or manipulation. My sister recently told me that standing up for myself gave her permission to do the same. Maybe that's the most valuable lesson from this difficult experience. Our choices ripple outward, affecting others in ways we can't always predict. By refusing to participate in unhealthy patterns, we create possibility for genuine connection and healing. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit like and subscribe to support more real-life stories about finding strength through challenging situations. Remember that standing up for yourself isn't selfish. It's the foundation for authentic relationships built on mutual respect. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I wish you courage on your own path to establishing healthy boundaries.